Meet you all. I've met most of you, I think, but I own a few companies here in Charlotte. I own a marketing agency called Fusion Creative, and in the last year or so, I've actually been pivoting and sort of niching in on a very specific target audience that we started identifying in a lot of the common work we're doing. So one of the things I'm focusing on now is I help CEOs who are sort of finishing up their corporate career in developing a personal brand. So John talked about thought leadership. People like Steve who are sort of looking for something bigger and better, to whether it's podcasting, whether it's keynote lectures, workshops, but really taking their core competencies that they built over 30-year careers, whether it be corporate, whether it be banking, whatever it is, as a leader, and now pivoting that into a more intellectual thought seed brand. So making them the persona of the actual brand. So if you're getting ready to retire, but you're really good in front of an audience, you're really good at leadership, you're really good at compelling people to do things, taking those skill sets and building a personal brand around that. And so that's one of the things that I'm focusing on in my business, at least one of the different divisions. So, make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's crazy because, John, you mentioned earlier, how there's so many different opportunities now for people with social media, with a digital workspace, to be able to reach a broader audience. And so it's crazy how many people were going to retire, but then we're like, wow, I'm actually really good at this. I really love doing that. And so let me see how I can pivot that. And so I help them sort of figure that out and scope that out. But anyhow, that being said, what I'm going to talk about today is sort of like we planned this out, John. John talked about sort of the elements of what branding is. And so I'm going to take you through this is a small derivative of the workshops that I do for a keynote in really developing your brand. So we're going to take some of the core elements of what a brand message is. And as John touched on, your brand is not just your logo or your website. It's literally everything. It's how I present myself. It's the shoes I'm wearing. It's how I speak to you when I see you. It's literally everything, and it's always on. So especially if you're in the industry where I am, where you're in front of audiences all the time, you're doing workshops, you're working with CEOs, you're always on. And so you always want to be able to be cognizant of that, if you will. And again, it's your representation. It's literally your forward-facing model. So I'm going to talk about a few things today during this presentation, and I'm actually going to have you go through the exercise, hence the piece of paper. So if you could, just humor me. And I encourage you to do it on the paper, not write it out, because there's going to be a little turn-in for that if you choose to take advantage of it. All right, so I don't have a mouse. Just a little bit about me. If you want to check me out, you can scan that. It'll go straight to my website. Oh, will that advance me? Oh, I'm cool. I don't mind pressing the button. I'm cool. I'll get my exercise in this way. So I'll let you scan that for a quick second if you want a little bit more about me. This is my personal brand website. And then, I don't know if can you get that at that angle? Let me see. Wow, this is kind of cool. What's this? Well, your QR reader sucks, though.
You might need to be on, what's it called?
I got it. That's really cool. How does that open up like that? That's pretty snazzy. I've never seen that before. Wow. All right, so everybody good with this that wants it? All right, cool. All right, so we're going to talk about the essential elements, and we're actually going to build out. Has anybody ever done a brand discovery exercise like this, where they actually built out their mission, their value statements? Of show of hands, how many people have done something like this? Okay, cool. You're nodding your head, so like this is second nature for you? Cool. All right, so if I got it wrong, just zip it. All right. So when I think about brand messaging, there's a few words that come to mind, and I put these up on the screen up here, and I'd like to just sort of like talk about those for a minute. So, and John, you mentioned a few of these. Consistency you mentioned, authenticity you mentioned, but there's a few other key words that I really want to call out here. So for me, branding, and I've been doing this for a long time. I started out in the corporate world working on multi-million-dollar projects, and at the key of every single one of those projects was a word, emotion. And how do you connect your brand, your product, your service, whatever it is that you're selling, whether it's banking, whether it's YouTubing, whether it's real estate, how do you differentiate yourself with your ideal market, your ideal customer? And it all centers around, for me, one word, this emotional heartstring that you can connect with people. So branding is all about the emotional elements, and it comes before marketing, okay? So I want to make that differentiation there. It's really important to know this, because a lot of the people that I work with, they first go straight into the marketing world. And I got to get my website up, I got to get my logo up, I'm just going to go onto social media, I'm going to start smattering with all these posts, and then they get fizzled out and burned out. And it's because they didn't take the time, sort of like a house, right? The infrastructure, build a foundation for what they stand for. Who do they target? What are they selling? What problem are they solving? All of the key elements, and how am I going to connect with my ideal buyer? And so branding is literally the foundation for everything you do as a business owner. Whether you're a small business, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a personal brand, it's literally everything. It's the foundation for which everything comes afterwards, okay? And so we're going to talk about a few of the key elements today. Again, this is like a 4-hour workshop on the regular, so trying to condense this into 20 minutes is going to be tight, so just bear with me. But brand messaging is clarity, right? It tells your audience who you are and what you do. Very clear. If you're out there, so early in my career, I also own a photography studio that I've been doing since I was 12 years old. And early on in my career, I was taking anybody's job. Whatever, if you had pet photography, I'm in. You have baby photography, I'm in. You've got house photography, I'm in. And what was happening is I was sort of putting this stuff on websites, but I didn't even know what I was doing anymore. Like, I had no clarity on my own objectives, and so my audience had no idea. And so I had never taken the time to really do the stuff that I actually had been teaching for years in the corporate world. I was like, okay, now I'm an entrepreneur, I'm just going to go out there and do it. And I thought I knew everything, but I hadn't taken the time to build my own foundation. So as soon as I went backwards and sort of organized that piece, man, things just blew up for me. And so clarity, consistency, John mentioned consistency. Consistency is really important because once you've clarified your message, you have to make sure that you're always doing the same thing in the same area, right? Especially if you started to really hone in on who your target audience is, and your target audience might be near retirement CEOs who are looking for X, Y, or Z, looking to sort of like take all of their money, put it into a bucket, be able to manage it in one spot. But if you start talking about like stocks and then Bitcoins and all these different things that might not have any leverage material, you're going to have buyer confusion, right? And so it's really important to be consistent once you get this message down, how you share that message with your audience, right? It's very important. Authenticity, I mean, that goes without saying. Just be real, man. Like, everybody can spot a fraud. Like, if you're out there just constantly selling, but then you don't actually do what you say you're going to do, you're never going to have that know, like, trust paradigm. So it's really important to be yourself and figure out what that is. Like, what is your true persona? So we all have buyer personas. We also have self personas. So it's really important for us as CEOs, as entrepreneurs, to understand, like, who are we? What do we bring to the table? And how do we engage with people on a regular level? So it's really important to do that. I won't go through all the other words because I don't have enough time. But the key piece of here on this side is perception. You talked about perception. It's really important to understand that your client, how do they see you, okay? I know what I'm good at, I know what I like to do, but that matters shit if Aryan doesn't know if his perception of me is completely different. Like, he might see me as a different person, and his perception is going to drive his buying personality, right? So it's really important that you're always looking at your audience. What do they like? What do they need? What problem are you solving for them? Don't just look at it from your skill set and your assets. How can I take my assets, transpose that so that my buyer also gets something out of it? Does that make sense? So it's a two-way street, and it's really important to kind of consider that. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is an exercise. And I'm sorry I'm talking fast, forgive me. We're going to define our core values. So this is why you have this piece of paper here, okay? So your core values are, and I put a little analogy up there. Think of your core values as the roots of a tree, right? This is a really good way to remember this, right? So a tree is nothing without strong foundational roots, right? And it's only as strong as its root structure goes deep. And little known fact, the root structures generally match, at least in length or longer, the height of the tree. So they sort of grow in a congruent nature, right? So your brand needs to grow in the same congruent nature. Your brand is only going to be as strong as the values that you imbue into it, right? And so if you're the CEO of your company, or if you have a team, your values need to be carried across your team. They also need to be lived and breathed and acted out just like by yourself. And so we're going to do a little quick exercise here. The three primary elements of I put up there is, if you know your values, you're going to start speaking that language in all of your lexicon to the people who also have those similar values, right? And remember, we're not selling to everybody. No matter how valuable your product is, there's still some sort of a niche value parameter in that. And you have to understand what that looks like. It might be multiple. So I have multiple buyer personas. I have multiple avatars because I own an agency, I own a photography studio, we have a videography aspect of it, and now we're doing personal brands. I have 5 to 6 different buyer personas, and each of them have basically the same overlapping principles and values. There's a little derivatives that change here and there, but these values are what people connect with. These are our guiding principles. And what's really cool about once you've taken the time to do these value exercises is that it enables you to differentiate yourself from your competitors. Because while you might value customer service, you might have a completely different piece on this. Maybe you're valuing just volume, okay? So you have so much business that you're willing to let a few customer service quibbles kind of add up because you have so much volume. But you're like a one-to-one man. So it's like all you care about is customer service. And so you have to figure out what are your values as you're doing business, and those are what you communicate to your audience. Because Aryan might love that I'm a go-getter. But sometimes people get rubbed the wrong way because I'm like, dude, I don't really care what the problem is. We're going to solve it, right? So my new wife, I recently got married. She's completely different than any other woman I've ever dated. It's pretty crazy because she's like low key and even kill, and it's just kind of like smooth and rock out. And I'm like, yeah, let's go get it right away. How do we do it? How do we do it? I'm like, because I'm an athlete, and so I grew up around sports, and so I've had to really learn to like pace myself, and she's had to learn to sort of like bring it up a notch. So it's really been like a cool dynamic to watch this thing play out because my former partners were all like, yeah, we're gonna go do it just like Deevo, and I was like, okay, this is gonna burn out really, really fast, and it did. So lo and behold, I have a new partner that now balances me out. So your values are the same way, and your partners, whether you're doing collaborations, whether you're doing partnerships, whether you're doing client workshops, whatever it is, your values that you imbue into your business, those are going to carry over to the people that align with you. So it's really important to understand what those values look like. So we're going to do a really brief exercise right here. Before I do that, I wanted to just use a local brand. This is the Carolina Panthers. I actually know a couple of people over here, so these are on their website, but I was sort of part of an exercise with this, and so I know how they built this. But their core values, and they have other ones, but their core values are community. So they are really committed to positively impacting the community. And you see Panther stuff everywhere, and I think that's basically every NFL team, by the way. But excellence, all right, integrity, teamwork, and innovation. So there's a very structured exercise that I do in my full workshop where we actually get these derivatives whittled down to what your core values are. But we're going to do a real quick one right now. So my core values, just for giggles, are authenticity, creativity, empowerment, connection, and excellence. And for me, these are words that all also imbue collaboration. Like I feel that everything I do is a collaboration. This workshop today that we're doing is a collaboration. I can't be here unless you're involved. Like I can't add any value to your life unless you participate. I can't give you any sort of material to take home unless you're actually paying attention, right? And so for me, everything is a collaboration. And you'll see that in everything I do. I tell my clients, like, I can only take so many cool photos of you. Like, you can't just be a dud, bro. You have to show up. Like, there's a role you have here. So one of the things we're doing today is a lunch and learn, one of my clients. And he's been, like, literally spitting up nervousness for the last few weeks. He's never done one of these. And so I flew in on Saturday, and on Sunday, I made him walk through the entire lunch and learn. And he was, like, really good. And then he started stuttering on his words. And I was like, bro, come over here. Let's just sit down. Let's do a breathing exercise. And so we sat down, and I was like, just imagine you're doing this to your wife. Like, just talk to her like you would talk to her. And, like, really engage in this. And so for me, it was all about, like, getting him into his comfort space. And so I'm not just going to, as his client, I'm not just going to throw him out there and be like, all right, go to the Wolves and train. So for me, everything is about building together, building relationships, and longevity. And so that's how I do all of my operations. How much time? I'm good so far? All right, so for your exercise, I want you to write down 5 core values. Don't give it over thought. Just think about, is integrity important to you? Is customer service important to you? Is beautiful looks important to you? Maybe you only like to work with beautiful people. Maybe you only work with people under 30. Like, think about, what are your values? What are the things that really matter to you most? Just write those down. Yeah, don't overthink it. I forgot to ask everybody their names. Tell me your name.
Judy.
Judy, did you write yours down?
No.
Who has their 5 finished? Success, you have yours? Steve, what are your 5?
Empathy, ethical, ikigai, curiosity, resilient.
So let's pick one of those words and explain to me what that means to you.
Empathy, being aware and cognizant of what's going on around you, especially towards your clients.
That's brilliant. So he's given this thought. I imagine you've done something similar to this before. So that's great. So he's looking at his values. He was looking at it from remember, perception? He was looking at it from his client's perspective, point of view. How can I show up for them in the best possible light? Being kind-hearted, being loving, being attentive, et cetera, et cetera. So empathy was one of his values. Success, what's the word you have? Give me one.
Yeah, that's the consistency.
Consistency. So what does that mean to you, consistency?
Yeah, consistency for me to be there all the time. I mean, be sure that whatsoever I'm doing, I'm consistent with it.
So brilliant. So you're customer service oriented, I would suspect, right? So consistency for success is that no matter what it is, he's always going to show up. He's going to give his dedicated commitment to his client every single time, come hell or high water. Tell me one of your words.
I'm going to go with flexibility.
Explain what that means to you.
I want to create plans that give my clients maximum flexibility. Life, we don't live on spreadsheets, so if something comes up that's not good, we can have a way to deal with that. But if some opportunity comes up, we have a way to pursue it. Just kind of creating balance.
Brilliant. So adaptability, flexibility. So what he's saying is that he doesn't have a one-size-fits-all. He's not a boilerplate. He goes with each client and he says, John needs X, Judy needs Y. Tell me your name again. Thomas needs something else. And so he goes in with each one of his clients, and I'm assuming that you sort of share this message on your website, on your social media, when you meet with clients. We provide a tailored approach. Like, there's no boilerplate, right? And so there are people who kind of just give it to me quickly. I want that quick solution, but there are other people, his client, that want something tailored specifically to them. So he's going to imbue that in his philosophies and his wording and his copy on his website and his social media. And so it's really important. So you sort of get the picture. So there's actually a formal exercise where you can whittle it down, because what you sometimes think in your mind are your values aren't necessarily your actual values. And so if you're interested in that conversation, please send me a DM. All right, the next piece is your mission statement. And I call this my North Star. This is my compass, all right? And this isn't just for me. I have 10 employees in my company. And so our mission statement is something you'll see on everything we do we communicate. We talk about it. We breathe about it. We have lunch and we talk about it. How are we constantly living our mission? And what our mission does is it gives our brand a purpose. It gives us a North Star, right? So a GPS, when you head out someplace into a new town, I mean, you might be adventurous and just sort of go wherever the wind takes you, right? But you're generally putting in some coordinates that are going to guide you to the twists and turns and get you there, right? And so having a mission statement is not just this benign statement that you write down on paper. You should put this somewhere where you can live it, eat it, breathe it, and really understand what it means to you. Because it's ultimately going to help you get from here to there, wherever there is. And your there is completely different than mine. And it's not a straight line, and we're all entrepreneurs and business people. Owning a business and running a business is a squiggly ass line. So you need to have a mission compass that helps you figure out how to get there. Otherwise, as soon as a rabbit comes by or a squirrel comes by, you're chasing it and you're always going down those rabbit holes and you don't stay on track. And I'm guilty of that as much as anybody. So we're going to do a quick exercise in creating our mission statement. And so I have a simple sort of formula for this. And you're just going to write this down on your paper, okay? And then you're going to fill in the yellow. So we help fill in your target audience. Who is your buyer? Do, underline what, so fill in the what, by X. Okay? So everybody understand how to do that? So my mission statement is I help entrepreneurs and small businesses create compelling brand stories by providing strategic brand messaging and storytelling expertise. I teach you how to share your message with your purposeful audience. I teach you how to connect on social media and share your brand with a larger world. I teach you how to create content that tells your story about your business. Okay? I'm very, very clear on what I'm good at and what I love doing. And so my mission statement is helping entrepreneurs. And I know exactly who and I actually, this is even more fine-tuned. If you were to go inside my brand book, each of my businesses has a much more fine-tuned mission statement because I help a very specific type of entrepreneur. And I also help a very specific small business. All right, so write that out. Again, we help X do Y by Z. Anybody want to share one and volunteers, or I can pick on you? You got yours?
Well, it's in here, but
All right, get it out.
I can tell you this.
All right, go ahead and write it down first.
Okay.
All right, tell me your name again.
Earl,
Earl. Tell me your mission statement.
my mission statement is we help small businesses, 1 to 50 employees and commercial drivers to thrive beyond survival by providing affordable resources that allow them to make competent decisions about their business.
Brilliant. So he has all the key elements in there. He has his target audience, he has his what he does, and he does how he does it. So anybody else want to share theirs? John, you have one you want to share?
No.
Anybody? Arian?
Yeah, I said Creative Nest helps aspiring podcasters and streamers in the Charlotte area to chase their streaming and podcasting goals by guiding them through their initial setup process and helping them further.
Brilliant. So what I would encourage all of you is to take this home, and you are going to take this exercise home, and then I'm going to invite you to take a photograph of it and send it to me, and if you would like feedback on it, I will do that. You're not done yet, so don't do that yet. But I would encourage you to take this home, both the value statement, your value metrics, and this mission statement, and see if you can't clean it up a little bit. And sort of the motto for mission statements is keep it simple, stupid, KISS. You want to make sure that you can understand it, that it's simple for you to share that message, that your audience, your team, everybody sort of understands why it is. Try to avoid lengthy jargon and colloquialism. Keep it simple, stupid, KISS. All right. So everybody drafted out their mission statement. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to quickly jump to what I consider one of the more important elements of your brand, which is your UVP, your unique value proposition. Your unique value proposition is literally how you tell your audience what you do and how you solve their problem. Okay? So Ari and I do similar things. John and I do similar things. Steve and I do similar things. Success and I have some crossover in things that we do. So it's really important that I understand what makes Steve Steve and what makes Deevo Deevo. And that's really critical by understanding what problems do you solve for a very specific audience, okay? And even if you're not in entrepreneurialism and you're still working in the corporate world, you probably have a team that you support. You probably have a very specific job function. It's very clear that you understand what your division does and the problems that they solve. And be very, very crystal freaking clear about this. Because when you understand what problem you solve, your audience is going to be able to understand what problem you're solving for them. And they don't give a shit about you. They only care what's in it for them. I'm sorry to put it bluntly, but that's how business works. People really only care what's in this for me, okay? Remember that. You can be as passionate about your business and have some amazing collaborations and be literally the coolest person on the planet. But at the end of the day, your consumer is going to want to know that brand loyalty is only going to exist if you're still solving their problems in an efficacious way. Okay, so remember that. And your unique value proposition enables you to do that. Okay, and it's a very, very simple statement. Very similar to the mission, but there's one small piece. What's your unique approach? Okay, so I want you to write this down. We help our target audience do what? What is it you do? What's the benefit of your service? By your unique approach. Okay, so again, mine is we help entrepreneurs and CEOs connect deeply with their audience. That's my value proposition. I teach you how to connect and talk to your audience, which is a very specific commodity. I'm not interested in people who don't buy from you. I'm only interested in helping you find the people that buy from you, okay? And once I do that, I help you crystallize your brand messaging so you can share that UVP with them, right? So that's my UVP. All right, take a few minutes. I'll stop rambling for you guys to write yours down. You want to share yours?
The first one maybe, I'm still thinking of how to make it unique, but I would say for us, the first would be we help commission-based salespeople grow by improving their habits, sharpening their skills, motivation, and systems.
And systematizing in some way, shape, or form, right? Which lends itself to you help high-performing executives or people organize themselves. That's sort of the direction I hear you going. So that's a valuable asset because I'm a disorganized dude and I've had to spend a lot of time and energy on getting myself organized. I hired somebody specifically to come in and organize myself and my business. So I had to be systematized. And now everything we do is systematized. Our emails are systematized. Our workflows are systematized. Our payroll is systematized. How we engage with clients are systematized. Our sales process is systematized. And so your value proposition is you take, and again, you can metricize this any way you want, but you take high-value CEOs or high-value businesses or whatever it is, and you help them systematize their operational process flows for efficiency, something of that value, right? And when I hear those words, I'm like, bing, ding, 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 ding. I'm honing in on you. Remember the beacon at the beginning, that mission statement? That beacon. So when you start crystallizing these messaging, when you start really sorting out what you do, why you do it, how you do it, what problem you solve, you're literally like a beacon light in the middle of the ocean for your followers. And when you're on social media and you're spending time to actually share this message and connect with people like this amazing platform that Steve has provided us, people are going to hear those words and be like, oh, what's that? I want to go talk to this cat afterwards. Hey man, I heard you talk about this, this, and this. I'd love to connect with you, have coffee, blah, 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 right? And it just becomes a beacon, right? And so this is what having these mantras in place does for you. All right, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to get really quickly in this last one. The last one, this is much more complicated, but I'm going to give you a simple way to sort of think through it. It's your target audience. We call these buyer personas. People call them avatars. There's a bunch of different ways you can call this. I'll share this with the people. You can have this afterwards. You don't need to take photos of it. But your buyer persona, I have multiple buyer personas, okay? And I speak to those buyer personas in a completely different way. So don't misconstrue that you can't have more than one, right? It's okay to have more than one buyer persona. But your buyer persona enables you to sort of connect with your ideal audience and then be able to communicate their language. It's like, so I just came back from Central Europe, right? And I only speak English because we're stupid Americans, and everywhere around the world they speak like 5 languages, right? So everywhere I went, I had to be like, and she's like, dude, I speak English, just talk to me. So I'm like, well, okay, cool, I'll talk English. So the point of that is like things get lost in translation if you're not really crystallizing this messaging structure, because then people will be like, so tell me what you do again? What's your business?
Oh, okay, what I do?
No, what do you really do?
Okay, living benefit experts.
Okay, so if you're talking up, so she helps living benefits for expatriates. Is that just locally?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great. But if you're starting to go on your social media or on your website, it has all sorts of like mixed colloquial and jargon about something else you do. Maybe you have something about real estate on there. Like when I start reading this stuff, I'm going to have confusion. I'm going to have like lost in translation. So it's really important that you spend some time on your website, on your social media, your brand messaging, and be very, very clear on all these things we've talked about today. Because if you can tell me what you do in 30 seconds, but I go to your website, like John was talking about, that little box, I'm like, what the hell is he doing? I don't know what he does, man. There's nothing on here that makes any sense whatsoever. Like, that is not what he told me in the networking session. So make sure that you're consistent across all of your platforms, and what you say you do is what your copy says you do, is what your website says you do, right? It's really, really important. Otherwise, people will be like, I'm just gone. I'm going to the next person, right? And that's how social media works, because if you confuse people, forget about it. All right, we sort of talked about that. All right, so this is the exercise, okay? And if you want to just take a quick snapshot of this, you can, but I am going to share this with you. But I want you to think about, just like literally close your eyes for a second and think about who, if you had a magic wand, right? And I gave you a magic wand, and I was like, Steve, with this magic wand, I'm the genie, you can literally create your perfect avatar by just wishing it to be true, and only those customers are going to come to you on a regular basis. Write that down, what that person looks like. Literally write it down. What's their main problem or need? You hear that question? Because that's the problem you solve, right? What's their main problem or need? How does your product solve it for them, right? How does your expat solution solve that for them? Where do they spend most of their time? Are they physical? Are they social media? Are they on a website? Do they hang out in trees? I don't know. Are they always at the supermarket? Like, where do you think that you would find your ideal customer? Write that down. And give them a name. Give them a name. Literally give them a name. Frank, Natalia, whatever it is. And what's their approximate age? The approximate age of my client is 46. I found that people who are around that 46 age, they've sort of figured their shit out by now. They know what they want to do. They've been in business long enough. They've been running their entrepreneurial business long enough now. They've had a modicum of success. They have a bit of revenue going. They might have a team. I'm not looking for people who are 20 years old straight out of college. That's not my avatar. I'm very specific about who I work with. And what's their occupation? What do they do? What do they do? Are they CEOs? Are they bankers? Are they operations managers? Are they retired CEOs? Are they traveling people that just like to travel the world? Like, what do they do? Think about that. It's really important. And then it's also really important to understand what are some of their personal preferences. Because if you can understand their personal preferences, you can start sort of re-engineering your language to understand where these people hang out. I love growing exotic and collecting plants. Crazy as it may sound, I literally have like 1,000 succulents and cactuses in my house or in my garden. And that might seem irrelevant to you, but I might want to target somebody because somebody who does that might also have some disposable income. Someone who has disposable income might be my client. Someone who likes plants might be more oriented to sort of being outside and in nature. Like, you start to make parallels and you start making what are called schematic site maps. This sort of draw, and we do this in my exercise. We literally create this entire site map on how you hone in on your avatar. It's a really cool exercise. And then you walk away from it like, holy shit, I never even talked to this person before. Right? So it's really important that you understand what that person looks like, where do they eat, where do they shop, what do they drive? Do they drive domestic cars? Do they drive BMWs? It's really important to know that because those type of people have a very specific personality. And the more you understand that person, the more you can market to that person, the more you can shape your brand. Okay, I'm running out of time. I keep saying that. I'm almost done. Just to recap, we talked about our mission statement, our UVP, our unique value proposition, our core values, and then we just sort of did a small exercise on understanding your target audience. I think that's all I have. Oh, I said I want to share one last thing for you. So for me, I have a term called the base model, okay? For me, this is how to scale a business. This is one of the things that I take all of my clients through, okay? So when you sign up to work with me, we go through a whole process called the base model. And the base model is branding first and foremost. Remember, branding is everything. It's not just your website. It's not your logo. It's not your cool, fancy, silk embossed business card. That's part of it, but that's not all of it. And then we go through the alignment. We make sure that we are fully aligned in all of our platforms, in all of our messaging, our websites, our blogging, our social media. We have the same handles on LinkedIn as we have on Instagram, all the different things. We get fully aligned with what we all have these great ideas to run a business, but if you're out of alignment, you're kind of like that GPS cord, and you're like, yeah, squirrel, chasing off into the distance, right? So we go through the alignment. We make sure we're fully aligned on our strategy, our missions, our values. We get all that stuff really juxtaposed, and then we build a strategy. Because you can't do anything without a strategy, right? Otherwise, it's just willy-nilly. You're just kind of throwing darts all over the place, right? So then we do a strategy. And then execution. Now we go out and we talk to the world, okay? So if you guys want to sort of take a picture of that, it's a really cool metaphor that I use for all my clients. It really helps you sort of like get your head wrapped around how you want to run a business and the things you want to do. All right, cool. That's it. Thank you for your time. Sorry I went over, Steve. Take a deep breath.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
He's going to be back here next week, folks.
So what my invitation to you is, and I have to leave, take this white paper that you worked on and flesh these things out a little bit. If you want to take a photograph of it and email it to me, you can take a picture there and go to my website and send it directly to me. I will offer you some feedback on it. I'll help you sort of rearrange some words and sort of look at some of the things you put down, and I'll give you some, just don't be offended. I'm very honest. Remember, I'm that person that's like, dude, I'm just going to tell you right now, right? Don't worry about it. So if you want feedback, honest feedback, you're not going to be a baby about it, send it over to me and I'll fix it up for you.